This episode of Nos Audietis is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Audietis since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to...
This is Nos Audietis.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
A sideline fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Ray Gibbs through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Nico Ladero leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is good.
Seattle Sounders, the greatest MLS team in history.
They've scored! They've scored! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Is that what you young people call twerking?
And Paul can't say it's cheating.
We want to win. Let's see how the Sunday, bro.
God bless Seattle!
Welcome back to another episode of Nos Audietis, sponsored by Full Pool Wines, Watson's Counter, and our Substack subscribers. This is the Mailbag episode for Leagues Cup Match Week 1. I am Jeremiah Shan. Joining me today is Aaron Capo and our engineer, Lickett. Well, Aaron, we want to just start off and ask some of these Substack subscriber questions.
Let's do it. Yeah, these first 4 of them are from our wonderful subscribers. And the first one that I will ask to you is from Ryan. What is Schmetzer's current contract situation? The best/newest info I saw was a Sounder at Hearts article saying he re-signed a new contract through at least 2023.
Yeah, so I was actually able to do some actual reporting on this, and I can tell you that he is signed through 2024. So he would he's under contract for the rest of this year. He's under contract for next year, which frankly I think it would take something pretty monumental to justify not bringing him back for the 50th anniversary season, of which I imagine he will be a significant part of. And rightfully so. I mean, no one has spent more time and more energy with this organization than he has. But after next year, it sounds like his contract is potentially up, and maybe there's a neat way of parting ways, or maybe he proves that he needs to be here even longer. So,
yeah,
that's that, I guess. All right. Well, this one's from Sammy Katz. He says, currently, can you rank the 5 best players on the Sounders for the rest of 2023? So let's all add a caveat to this. The 5 most important players for the rest of the season.
And yeah, so that works. And that with that framing, I'm going to say Christian, number 1.
Number 1. Okay.
I think Christian is I think Christian is the most important player on the team, so I'll just stick with that. I think that the next player is the player who's going to be the talisman, right? Where as he go the Sounders, and I think that's Raul.
Okay.
If Raul can play like Raul again, I think the Sounders are in pretty decent shape. If he plays like he's been playing for the rest of, the first part of 2023, it could get rough. Leo Chu, I think, is an obvious one. He's been the best attacking player all season, and doesn't really show too many signs of stopping, or that this is a fluke. I'll say Jackson Reagan. I think he's been phenomenal. I think Yamar has been excellent as well, but I think Reagan is in the figuring it out phase of his career, where week on week he just looks like a better player. So that's 4. And I think I'm going to say Nico Ladero for the reasons we talked about on the mainline show. If we mean who is the most important, if it were best, Nico would not be in here. I don't think he's one of the 5 best players on the team right now, and I don't think he's going to become one of the 5 best players. I'd probably say Jordan or Rusnak, but I think that if Nico can accept a role that is more suited to where he's at in his career, it could mean pretty good things for the rest of the year.
Well, I don't know. I assume this was an oversight on your part, or maybe you're just taking him from granted. But I think João Paulo probably has to be in that. And I'll even put him number 2. I think he's not only has he been the most, maybe their best player the first half of this or the first 2/3 of this season, but I think he is really, like, his performance, I think, is going to go a long way towards dictating how good they be. So I'll say Roldan number 1, João Paulo number 2, sort of in the same vein that you ranked Rui Diaz number 2. I think Albert Rusnak probably is going to be an equally important, like, how he does, especially if he ends up assuming the number 10 role. I think he maybe goes in at number 3. I'll agree with you that well, and I think Jordan Morris potential is another one who I think probably goes in number 4. And I think you sort of have to choose between Morris and Chu as being the most important. And then, yeah, I'll agree with you. I think Reagan, his performance is going to be a pretty big part of this. So I guess my 5 are Roldan, João Paulo, Rusnak, Morris, and Reagan. Now, I think that's good. We had a different group there, but I also think the fact that there are, we listed 8 or 9 players in that among our 2 10s. And I think that's, like, to me, I really do think this team has the talent. Now, whether or not it fits together, that's the big question, right?
Yeah. I am swapping JP for Latero. So
okay, fair enough.
But we still had a different one, right? We still had a different list.
Yeah, we did. We did have a different list.
Next one's from Bill Jones. How do we match up against Monterey in the Prophet Cup? I'm assuming that we can field something like our best 11 as we did in Dallas, and that they'll remember how to play together.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try to, like, pretend like I know Monterey's lineup. I do know that they're really, I mean, they're not like just a legacy team. They are legitimately one of the best teams in Mexico. But they'll be playing us on short rest. They'll be playing us at home. And yeah, I mean, I would think the Monterey game will be as close to our ideal 11 as we've had all year. Assuming no unexpected injuries between now and then, Jordan Morris should be fully available. Christian Roldan should be fully available. As far as we know, literally the 13 most important Sounders players are going to all be available, and there's going to be some real lineup decisions to be made. And in fact, the lineup that they roll out in that game will give us a big window into what Brian Schmetzer sees as the Sounders' ideal lineup, I think.
Yeah. I don't feel great about how they match up against that Monterey team, but I think that short rest, playing at home, maybe the Mexican team's not taking this tournament super duper seriously because they want to go home and see their families a little sooner, could all play to the Sounders' favor.
So this is from Ben, again, another Substack question. Since we already are guaranteed a spot in the next 2025 Club World Cup, is getting into the Champions League a positive since it will continue congest a very congested schedule? Now, I will add, this is the 2024 Champions League that the Sounders are going to be qualifying for.
Yeah, but we are qualified for the Club World Cup in 2025, right? And that's the next one.
Yes.
So the question, I think, is since we don't have to qualify for the Club World Cup, is getting into the 2020. I think that's.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I guess winning the 2024 CONCACAF Champions League is all you're doing is winning another trophy. You're not qualifying for a bigger tournament necessarily.
Well, you're never qualifying for a bigger tournament because CCL is a bigger tournament than the Club World Cup.
Well, exactly. And I think that's right. I agree. And I guess that's one of the things I always think it's very weird that CONCACAF Champions League sort of gets pitched. We talked about this, in fact, last year, about how it sort of gets pitched as like a qualifier for the Club World Cup when that's. Now, I don't know. Maybe this new Club World Cup format will make it seem like a bigger deal.
Maybe when the UEFA teams start taking it seriously.
Well, that's the thing is that if there's, because there's going to be like 8 UEFA teams, I think, in this Club World Cup. And so who knows? I mean, like, I don't know. I that one, unlike the Leagues Cup, I think there is potential for that to sort of blow away our expectations. Like,
I think that's fair.
That could end up being a really fun tournament.
I think that there is definitely an intention there to make that a tournament that the UEFA teams have to take more seriously and to make it a true Club World Cup. And I support the idea. I guess generally, though, I would say that it's always worth qualifying for the CCL because the CCL is the best tournament that the Sounders have a legitimate chance of winning.
Yes.
Especially if UEFA teams start taking the Club World Cup seriously.
It will be fun to play in the 2025 Club World Cup. And who knows, maybe MLS will be at a point where the Sounders could theoretically be mildly competitive in that.
Right.
But the format of that tournament actually makes it less likely that they're going to be competitive than they were in the old format, where like theoretically you could just win 3 games and get hot once against a European team or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you really value the Club World Cup highly, it's maybe you don't care about getting to CCL, but I always want to be in CCL. I think
so do I. Yeah, I think CCL's fun. Like I love playing it. It's and like I said all last year, if the cost of winning Champions League last year was missing the playoffs like even if it means like they are crappy again this year, I still think it was a worthwhile endeavor. It was
100%.
One of the best sporting memories of my life was being at Lumen Field with 70,000 people and it being just like everything you dream of. But
if you have a goal of winning a championship that is going to be very hard to win, which I think is true of CCL because no MLS team had ever won it, and you play in a league with a salary cap, guaranteed contracts, union restrictions, all that stuff, the chances are that you are going to put yourself in a not great position at the end of that window.
Yeah.
But it's worth doing if you can win that championship. And they did. So, so it goes.
Yeah. All right. I think we're on the Twitter questions.
We are on to Twitter questions now. The first one is from Nick Payton. How bad are we bad at scoring or really unlucky? Bonus question. What is your go-to summer beverage right now?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. It's hard to not feel like we're a little bit bad at scoring. Like I think and unlucky. Like I think the perfect example of that was right after the Sounders scored against Dallas, or right after Dallas scored, they immediately, like in the next kickoff, they created a wonderful opportunity. Raul Ruiz hits this just gorgeous pass to Rusnak. He runs onto it. He tries to touch it around the keeper. The keeper makes a great play, but the rebound falls right to Rui Diaz's feet. And what does he do? He just like clubs it and gives it right back to the goalkeeper when he has effectively an open goal in front of him. I mean, that's both. That's both bad at scoring and unlucky. But my go-to summer beverage right now, I just bought a 4-pack of Radlers, of grapefruit Radlers. Oh, those are like
a good one.
Those are perfect.
It's a good one. I will say, I think that a lot of the time teams that have a lot of bad luck, eventually it does become being bad at scoring because they're pressing and all that stuff. Summer drink of choice for me right now, non-alcoholic edition. I'm really getting really into kombucha this summer for some reason.
Whoa.
It's there's a
tattoos and kombucha.
Know, right? There's a kombucha brewery. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's up on the peninsula somewhere, but they do like a hopped huckleberry kombucha. Very good. And then I've been drinking a lot of on the weekends, when I have a cocktail or whatnot. I've been doing a lot of whiskey highball. So just whiskey, ginger ale, lemon, or lime. Very good. Very good drink.
Yeah. Good.
Refreshing.
All right. this is from our good friend Interpersonal. Who's your starting left wing going forward? Is it Chu or Morris? Leo gives us width on the left that we don't otherwise get, and he takes players on 1v1 or 1v2 in a way that we just don't see from Jordan. Are we going to see a timeshare or Jordan playing up top?
I think if you're asking me right now, you can only pick one player to start on, and they have to start on the left wing. I'd pick Leo Chu. He's been consistently very good. He's been one of the only real attacking outlets the Sounders have had for a lot of the season. I just don't think you can take him out of the lineup right now.
Yeah.
But if I were in charge and I kind of got free reign, I would be doing a lot of rotating, and you'd be seeing Morris on the right. You'd be seeing Morris up top. You'd be seeing Morris on the left when Chu gets a rest occasionally. I think that the Sounders have all of this great depth, and they have a lot of players that can play a lot of different positions, and they don't seem to be using that as much as they could. Now, some of that is injuries and Morris being gone for international duty and all that
Christian,
stuff. Yeah. So it's not as though this has all been a choice necessarily, but I do think that it's not which one. It's either or both, just depending on the situation, the opposition.
Yeah. So, but if you're saying if there's one player, you have to choose Morris or Chu.
Right now it's Chu.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. No. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's crazy. I think I'm maybe a little bit more inclined to try to figure out how to keep Morris on the field, but I'm with you. Like, I think we're going to have to see. My hope is that we see a lot of rotation.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this should set up for it. Like they should be able to come up with mix and match lineups that make sense and are effective. And I think it's entirely possible that their best lineup maybe is Chu on the left, Morris at center forward, and Christian Roldan on the right. But yeah, like we said, there's other formations that they could use too that would also make sense.
Yep.
And get all those guys on the field.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Next one is from TIE Fighter 17. Would you extend Rusnak for next season? I don't think he deserves 95% of the hate he gets. However, the potential of 2 new DP level players next season could bring a lot of excitement into the fan base.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Rusnak has an option for next year. I would assume it would be at DP wages. And if I'm the Sounders, I basically tell Albert, look, we'll bring you back at max TAM, but we can't bring you back as a DP.
Yeah.
And we'll give you, we'll guarantee you for 2 or 3 more years. I think Rusnak is a really useful player. I just don't think, he's barely over DP now. I mean, he's at 1.8. The DP threshold is like 165. So it wasn't like, I'm not convinced that was sort of like the make or break number. I think the Sounders were sort of like playing budgetary games where they were just like, oh, look, we can't, like they wanted to save their money. I suspect that's my conspiracy theory, is that they basically wanted to save they're looking, my assumption is they're looking at 2024 as the year where they make some big signings. And yeah, I hope that's what they do.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree. I do think he's been very good. I think he's been very consistent. I don't think he's anything close to the problem, but I think if you can open up a DB spot and and if it means you have to say goodbye, then
right.
That's what it
Yeah,
means.
that's the risk you take.
Yep.
All right, this is from M Rathgeber 22. I'm really lukewarm on the team right now and can't put my finger on it. Underwhelming play, Providence sponsor, new TV deal with Apple, et cetera, et cetera. What I guess the question is, why do you think there's all the above? What's the question?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above and other. I think the underwhelming play is the big part of it, right? Because I think we were willing to overlook a lot of stuff earlier in the year when they were playing well. The Providence thing was a bummer for a lot of us. The new TV deal, I like the Apple TV deal, but I completely understand why a lot of other people don't, for logistical reasons and for just moral reasons, not wanting to deal with Apple. Totally get it. I think my interest in MLS in general right now is in the toilet. It's never been lower. I don't care about anything else happening in the league. I don't care about the Leagues Cup. I still love the Sounders. I still watch every game. I'm still emotionally invested. MLS couldn't really care less. So I think that's a big part of it. And I also think that there's something about winning the big one, climbing the mountain, this thing that the whole
you get to the mountaintop and then you're like, oh, what's that all there is?
Right. And I think, like it's reasonable that you're just not going to be quite as emotionally invested because you're not chasing it anymore.
Yeah.
Luckily, get a couple years away from it and that tends to come back. But I think it's natural. And I also think the pandemic for a lot of people put sports in a different perspective. And I think that that's something that maybe doesn't get talked about as much.
Yeah, I will say that I think next year's 50th anniversary comes at a very opportunistic time because it does give the Sounders a really natural time to sort of like get re-engaged, do all this kind of stuff. And I hope they're going to be opening up a new training facility. There's going to be a lot of positive energy around this team next year. I don't blame anyone for being sort of like in the dumps a little bit about the way things are. And it's not because the team is awful and it's not because they don't care. It's just that it all feels a little anticlimactic right now. And my hope is that, maybe they go on a Leagues Cup run, maybe they finish the season strong and these feelings are, more temporary than that. But I don't think you're wrong, I guess is my comment.
Yep, agree. Next one from @3rd_star. Is it just me or does anyone else appreciate how much the Sounders used to try and play on opposite times of day with the Mariners? Now we seemingly only have 6:40 MLB and 7:30 MLS games that both get out at the same time. RIP trying to commute home. Now I will say, I think that a lot of that has to do with there were some temporary rules in place about events in the stadium district that have expired. And I think that's a big part of it. But it does suck, I think, if you're not going to the games or what have you.
I can't say that I've been as bothered by the dual Mariners Sounders aspect of it. I think for me it's bigger. It's more that it's just like every game being at 7:30 is kind of
sucks really bad.
Tiresome. I'm not as, like I said, I get to the game early enough so that I'm usually not like, it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, it does seem that way. And I think you're right. The reason is that I think the Sounders and Mariners just aren't forced to coordinate the way that they used to. Yeah. And yeah. All right. This is from Rhett Gulliford. Atencio has a tentative deal to move clubs, right? He can't be happy about his playing time decreasing from the second year in a row. Obviously injury has some part of that, but potential sale loan would make the lack of playing time recently make more sense.
I don't think so. I mean, that's just total speculation on my part, but I don't think that's what it is. I think if you're loaning him, who cares how much he's playing, right? Like what's the other club? The other club doesn't have the leverage to tell you to stop playing him, and you probably just would have done it by now. If you're selling him, I mean, the transfer window everywhere but here is open right now.
Yeah.
And I just don't see there being a huge market for Josh Atencio right now. So I don't think it's that. I'm frustrated with his lack of playing time. I think he's been really good this year. I'm sure he is as well, but he's also, I mean, he's a kid. Like you don't get a lot of, unless you're a can't miss prospect, you don't get a lot of opportunity to complain about your playing time when you're his age.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know that he's actually going to play less this year than he did last year. He only played 725 minutes last year. He's at 515 right now. So if he gets 2 more starts, he'll probably end up eclipsing that pretty comfortably. That said, I would imagine he is very frustrated. I don't think there is a deal already in place. I think he's frustrated. I hope he gets more playing time. I think there's a possibility he's in the Sounders ideal 11 at this point, at least in my mind. But we'll see. It doesn't look like we're gonna get that tested.
Right. All right. Next one is from Bob Clow. Since the advent of 5 subs per game, has there been any noticeable impact on game strategy and tactics in MLS and the Sounders specifically? Are there missed opportunities here? Any coach taking full advantage of the new rule or still just waiting for the 60th minute?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a good move. I think it probably has improved the quality of games in ways that are hard to like notice all the time. I do like there being 5 subs, but I think you're right. Like I don't know of any coaches that are suddenly have figured out like a way to ultimate, like really exploit this rule. I don't get the sense that there's a lot more halftime subs, for instance, now, at least not in MLS that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I would like to see more subs being made for sure. I think that would be beneficial for the Sounders, but I think coaches are very stubborn, and I'd be shocked if anybody has dramatically changed their approach in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that most coaches is that like very few coaches are willing to just sort of admit that they got the lineup wrong, and so you're just not going to see a lot of subs before the 60th minute or so, just because it's like there's a reason coaches picked the lineup that they picked, and they want to see it play out.
Yep.
All right. Well, these are sort of related questions, so I'll ask them together. From Jason, Best Life 2, and Dudesby. They both kind of are asking about the whole situation surrounding Miami and potential rule changes, and how it feels like they are skirting a lot of rules by effectively changing their entire roster at midseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have better insight into the specifics here than I do, and I think your consensus, correct me, or your takeaway, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's probably not all completely above board, but it's also probably not as shady as it looks. Like they are being creative with the way they're doing some of these things, and they're getting a little bit of assistance probably from the league because it means bringing Messi into the league, but probably not any more egregious than paying Clint Dempsey's transfer fee, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
is that fair?
Yeah, because I think to me the biggest one right now is the whole situation surrounding Rodolfo Pizarro, and so one of these moves that I think most people didn't even realize happened was they bought out Kieran Gibbs at the beginning of the season, or they mutually agreed. I'm putting air quotes around this. They mutually agreed to part ways, which theoretically, I suppose, means that the player just agreed to cancel his contract. But Kieran Gibbs apparently is working on the broadcast team, so he's getting paid by the team, which theoretically should count as a buyout, as far as I understand it. Right. Now with Rodolfo Pizarro, it sounds like what's happened there is that Miami's found a team in Greece or somewhere to take his contract, and so he maybe has really agreed to just walk away from his contract on the assumption that he's going to be made whole with this new deal somewhere else. And that, so assuming that's really what's happening, it's not quite as bad. And I suppose that one of the things to keep in mind is like they've been playing this year with a really bad roster, in part because they were saving up money to like go out and make a couple U22 signings and potentially bring in some other senior roster players. My assumption, though, is they're going to have some other senior roster players going out. And so I think there's some other shoes that are going to drop, but it would really behoove MLS, I think, to get out in front of this and ask for a little bit more transparency. Like the fact that nothing has been announced about what's going on with Pizarro, other than that Miami bought him or mutually agreed to part ways, which implies that this player just walked away from millions of dollars, is a bad look for the league. And the league should basically come out and say, like, this is why this makes sense. And I think a lot of people are asking these questions, and I think they're legitimate questions. And whether, like, if this is all above board, hey, fine. Can you show us your cards? Can you explain how this works? And I think that we're getting to the point where, fans want to know that we're playing on an even playing field, at least plausibly. And it doesn't feel that way right now.
Yeah. And I think that with what LAFC pulled last year with all that stuff, where they were clearly breaking rules, but doing it in an accounting way. I think that that's the thing that bothers people, is that it's like, look, we know that MLS reserves the right to do whatever the hell they want.
Right.
They've made that pretty clear in the past, but I don't like no, this is all totally,
just trust us.
Right. No, I don't trust you. And I'd be crazy to trust you. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody seems to be willing to accept that you do what you got to do to get Leo Messi into the league and make him happy. I don't love that, but I understand it. And, it's crazy to complain about, but I do think that trying to pretend like everything is being done, like, I don't think that any other team would be able to get away with this. And I think the fact that it's Miami of all teams doing it that got as closest that MLS has ever come to handing out like a death penalty type sentence for shenanigans, to now just be like, well, kind of the same kind of stuff, but it's messy, so whatever.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I think for all the shenanigans, they're going to have a really hard time making the playoffs. They are currently 12 points out of 9th place, albeit with 2 games in hand. But I don't see them and I don't know that Jordi Alba, to pick one player, is going to be the guy that's going to push him over the top.
Right. The reality with all the signings like this is that Leo Messi is still Leo Messi. He could play at 50% effort level, which I don't even know if he has in him, but he theoretically could and still be the best player in the league.
But that's still one player.
It's one player, and these other guys that are coming in, they're big names that make a lot of money, sure. But I mean, Steven Gerrard played in MLS. Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I'm not at all convinced that Sergio Busquets gonna dominate this league.
Yeah, and so I do think that. I think bringing in Messi's buddies is going to make Miami a worse team than going out and getting actual good players that are invested would be. But I'm not in charge of Miami. So next one is from Tacos and Haircut. Only 12 regular games left before the Sounders' first MLS brand update. Heard any rumblings about how the process is going?
There's actually only 10 regular season games, but there's 12 at least total games. Just to correct, but I haven't heard any recent rumblings. I mean, I think it's all done, is my understanding. I have heard bits and pieces about the status of that. I think they already have a jersey. I don't know that they're going to be getting a third jersey. I wouldn't be shocked. Supposedly the Bruce Lee kit was the Sounders' best selling shirt ever, which you would think would would be enough to rank it among the best selling MLS shirts ever. And that would presumably qualify them for a third kit, which would make a lot of sense to come out with a third kit next year when they're doing this whole brand update. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. My suspicion is that it's going to be the strong indications I've had is that the Space Needle is very much going to still be part of the logo. That Sounders is definitely going to be part of the logo, and that there's going to be some slight tweaks maybe to the color scheme, but nothing too dramatic.
It'll be interesting to see. I think you and I were both hoping for maybe a little bit more of a overhaul, but I think it does seem like they've kind of gone about the process the right way and soliciting input from the community. And maybe a lot of that input disagreed with us. So maybe that was part of it. But yeah.
All right. Well, this is a good note to end on from JDB219. With the whole crew back, why can't the Sounders win Leagues Cup?
It's a great question. I think they totally can. I mean, I think they have the talent. They've beaten Mexican teams with this group of players, and they even had to go to Mexico to do it. They have just as good a shot as maybe not anybody, but they have a good shot. They certainly can. Knockout tournaments are fluky. All sorts of stuff can happen. They can, and I hope they do. I hope they can figure some stuff out and get back to their best and go on a tear down the stretch.
That would be great. I'm with you. I think there's a decent chance that they, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if they were to come out and actually win this whole thing. So, I don't necessarily wouldn't say I'm predicting that, but it wouldn't be the most surprising outcome, that's for sure. May as well go do it, I suppose. It certainly would help change the vibes a bit. And if they won the Leagues Cup and they struggled a little bit coming out of the gates, I suppose that would be a fitting price to pay, but it doesn't have to be that way either. So anyway, well, that's our show. Thanks again to our Substack subscribers who really are helping fuel our increased output here. And we really do appreciate it. If you are interested in becoming a Substack subscriber, It's $50 a year or $5 a month. And you get some early access. We're going to have a big interview with Hugh Weber coming up that will have an extended version available only to subscribers. We're going to keep doing stuff like that. Of course, there's all kinds of other little perks that we try to add. But also, thank you so much to our regular sponsors, Watson's Counter and Full Pull Wines. I am Jeremiah Shan signing off for Aaron Campo and Lickett. This is Nos Ariates, and we will catch you next time.
We love you. Let's win another one.